Still it? Love the guy. All right. Let's phase that out. That's for Burt Reynolds. There's a guy running in the congressional district, the 18th congressional district in Florida. He's an extremely wealthy man. He bought himself a Democrat nomination. Just like the prior congressman's daddy bought him a Democrat nomination, he's now running for the Senate against Marco Rubio. But this guy's name is Randy Perkins. He's a loathsome guy. He's a chameleon. He's a fraud. And he's running against a war hero, our friend Brian Mattis. And I just wanted to point this out because he's using Alan West and me in a television ad in this district. This is a marginal district. It's +2 Democrat, but it can be won by a great candidate, and Brian is a great candidate. Brian Mast. And I became familiar with Brian Mast before he decided to run for Congress. We've had him on the program, as you know. This is a terrific young man. Put his life on the line to fight for this country and lost both of his legs. He has a wife and young children, and now he's being smeared. He's being smeared by this left-wing puke by the name of Randy Perkins. Our friends at the Washington Free Beacon tell us this about this puke, Randy Perkins. And I want all the people in the Florida 18th to listen to me. And I have a home in the Florida 18th. This is by Lachlan Marquet. Florida Democrat Randy Perkins says his lucrative ability to pick the taxpayer purse in the wake of devastating natural disasters makes him a perfect fit for Congress. So he's a bottom feeder. He's a sewer dweller. Maybe he'll use these phrases that I'm calling him in his next ad as he tries to buy a congressional seat. He says, I'm probably one of the most politically astute people in any business industry, let alone my own industry, said Perkins, owner and CEO of disaster relief contractor AshBritt, Inc., in a Wednesday evening interview. This is September 8th. Perkins is running to fill the seat being vacated by Florida Senate hopeful Patrick Murphy, whose daddy, I will add, also bought him the seat. The Perkins campaign and Democratic Party organs in Washington have pointed to his business career as a major asset. However, past controversies involving his company, AshBritt, may cast doubt on his claims to business savvy. The left-winger Perkins defended AshBritt's approach to government contracting, which he admitted entailed getting involved in the political process to sway lawmakers and regulators in charge of doling out billions of dollars in government aid. So in other words, he's one of these corporate welfare guys. You're paying him. The company was a lead government contractor working chiefly on debris removal after two of the country's most devastating recent natural disasters, Hurricane Katrina and Superstorm Sandy. In both cases, AshBritt flexed its political muscle in order to maximize its piece of ensuing procurement opportunities. Now this is the leech that wants to be a member of Congress from Florida's 18th congressional district. When Sandy hit New Jersey in late 2012, the company enlisted the services of leading political operatives in the state, some of whom had direct connections to local officials who signed off on millions of dollars in payments to AshBritt, a.k.a. this left-wing kook Perkins. The company hired George Gilmore, then the chairman of the Republican Party of Ocean County, where a GOP-controlled county board offered to pay towns for Sandy cleanup costs if they awarded contracts to AshBritt. It also hired Maggie Moran, once an aide to former Governor John Corzine and the wife of Belmar, New Jersey Mayor Matt Dougherty. Moran crafted a marketing strategy designed to sell city officials on AshBritt services. So you see what I mean? He's a leech who makes money off natural disasters through political clout that he pays for. And this guy's trashing Brian Mast, which I'll get to in a minute. She helped deploy salespeople to the hardest hit areas and used her extensive political network to set up meetings between company brass and local decision makers, said the Newark Star-Ledger. Delmar eventually awarded AshBritt, that's this company owned by the leftists, a no-bid contract for debris removal in the town. Moran and Dougherty insisted that they never discussed the contract and that their marriage was irrelevant to the award. The Federal Emergency Management Agency's Inspector General would later recommend that the federal government recoup more than $500 million in disaster relief funds from Delmar due to the city's failure to abide by contracting regulations. Dougherty was the target of a corruption investigation over the AshBritt contract. AshBritt, again, owned by this leftist Democrat who's trying to buy a seat in Florida's 18th and who's now trying to smear a war hero. Dougherty was the target of a corruption investigation over the AshBritt contract, though no charges were ever brought against him. He was also accused of terminating another debris removal contract and awarding it instead to AshBritt due to political considerations. Is this what you want, Florida? The process by which AshBritt won the contracts angered some local contractors. You second-guess yourself and wonder, what did we do? What didn't we do? And then you see in hindsight that it was purely political, said John De Rouville, the contractor who lost out on the bid. He later told the Asbury Park Press. Dougherty and other New Jersey officials, including Governor Chris Christie, who awarded contracts to AshBritt, again, this liberal Democrats company, said their primary concern was a quick and effective Sandy response. Christie was fast-tracking a $100 million contract for AshBritt, even before Sandy made landfill. So that's how this guy's made his money. And now he's using this money in part to run these smear ads in the smear campaign against Brian Mast, who lost both of his legs fighting for this country. Perkins, the liberal Democrat, acknowledged that it brought in influential New Jersey figures in order to navigate the political terrain. The fact of the matter is, after they awarded the contract, we're now dealing with 50 different government entities, 51 to be exact, Democrats, Republicans, individual elected bodies. We do not know all the intricacies of local government, he said. He downplayed the role of AshBritt's political operation in securing the initial Sandy contract, but admitted the company took advantage of that operation in order to ensure that it retained its position as one of the state's dominant Sandy contractors. I'm not done with this jerk. I'm not done with this jerk because he's emblematic, he's illustrative of the problem with the Democrats and the crony capitalism as he seeks to defeat a war hero. Stay with me. I'll be right back.
If you want to talk to Mark, we have two numbers for you to call. For regular Americans, call 877-381-3811. For liberals, call 877-381-3811.
By the way, make sure we get solid conservative patriots at that Pasadena Coliseum audience on Sunday, would you? Not just knee-jerkers. We want conservatives out there. So join us, please. We'll have a blast. I'm not done with this guy. I'm not done with this guy, and you'll know why in a moment. We've got to fight. We've got to fight for good men and fight against bad men. I know I say this, but I really want you to know we have an absolutely spectacular Levin TV tonight. I deal with the NFL commissioner. There's new information about immigration I want you to hear about. I deal with statements by some of these athletes when it comes down to Major League Baseball. I have to admit, most athletes are very patriotic. When you looked at the beginning of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Washington Redskins games last night, it made you proud. Both those teams. The players on both those teams. The American flag, the patriotism, no clown getting on their knee, pretending to stand like some civil rights leaders if they're Rosa Parks or Martin Luther King. So those teams have their acts together, and I want to thank them. And all the other teams that do as well. I didn't waste my time watching the Rams 49ers. I didn't. Because Doofus is on the 49ers, and there's a couple other doofuses, and who cares? So I went and got a hamburger instead. But you're going to love Levin TV tonight. I know you will. Even our social media part is it's really spectacular. Well, you don't have to trust what I say. Check it out. You can get 1 week free. If you haven't signed up yet for your annual subscription, you can get 1 week free. Check it out. And then trigger the subscription. You call 844-LEVIN-TV. And our folks there will tell you how to do it. It's very simple. Or you just go directly on the website, levintv.com, LEVINTV.com. It's cutting-edge technology. We make it as easy as possible. And yes, you can watch it on your TV. If you have a smart TV, you can watch it through Roku. Tens of thousands of people watch it through Roku. But if you have a home computer or laptop and you're working on there, you can watch us as well. If you have an iPhone or an iPad, an Android phone or tablet, you can take us with you and watch us. The new Apple TV platform, we're on Amazon Fire Tablet, Amazon Fire TV. We are going to be expanding, as I told you. I'll tell you about that in October, November. Just got wonderful things going on. And, I discuss these things from a conservative perspective, from a liberty perspective. And there are no commercials whatsoever. And the only guests I have are guests that I pick who are going to add something really unique and interesting and compelling. Like we just had Deborah Burlingame on for 2 shows, Friday and Sunday. And once you sign up, by the way, you can go back and watch them. We actually had many months ago a wonderful interview with Marco Rubio. Great interview with Mike Lee and others. Jim DeMint. So while I don't do a lot of them, we do these long-form interviews as Buckley used to do and others. I don't pretend to be Buckley. I'm just talking about the format. So people can actually speak about things without being yelled at or interrupted or having screaming memes who are meaningless, who represent some campaign or whatever. So check us out. I know you're going to love it. 844-538-4688, 844-LEVIN-TV, that's Levin TV, or go to levintv.com, levintv.com. We have a whole Facebook social thing going on, too, run by Chase and a team of people over there, young people. And so it's Levin TV Facebook, if you'd like to check us out there. What do we have, 200,000 people on there now, Mr. Producer? Something like that. And it's a verified page, meaning it's a legit page. There's lots of cool stuff on there, too. So we post our clips there. We post them on my Levin site, and we post them on our website. We're everywhere. You can't escape us. So I hope you'll join us. Now back to this gutter snipe, this leftist, Perkins. You might call him sort of a natural disaster ambulance chaser who's made millions and millions and millions of dollars off of natural disasters. And somehow he gets these big, cozy contracts, and some of them are no-bid contracts. He's a player. And now he's using some of that money to trash a war hero, Brian Mast. So back to the excellent Free Beacon piece. Perkins downplayed the role of AshBritt, that's his company. Must be named after his daughters or something. AshBritt's political operation in securing the initial Sandy contract, but admitted the company took advantage of that operation in order to ensure that it retained its position as one of the state's dominant Sandy contractors. Now, this guy's out of Florida. He said Democrats started attacking a couple of weeks after the phenomenal decision that Christie made. All of a sudden, they're getting pressure from local vendors to put the contracts out to bid, and this and that, he recalled. AshBritt was not about to forego taxpayer money. Yes, we've got the contract, and we're going to do everything we can to keep the contract, and we're not going to leave $1 on the table. This is the left-wing hack running in Florida's 18th congressional district. Perkins. When we have a contract we're performing, we intend to finish the job. When the political malarkey starts, we're going to do what we got to do to keep the contract. He's a parasite, in my view. My view, of course. The pressure local officials felt to open up contracts for bids stemming from controversy over the rates that AshBritt charged for some of its debris removal services. The company was paid $400 per tree removed. $400 per tree removed in its state contract, for instance. Local contractors offered the service for $200 a tree. Perkins' company also charged more than double the rates of other contractors per cubic yard of debris cleared. One New Jersey town that hired local contractors reported paying about $26 per ton of debris removed. A nearby town paid AshBritt about $100 per ton. Mr. Producer, why don't we see if we can get Mr. Perkins on the program? Perkins defended the company's markups. Just because something appears cheaper on the front end doesn't mean it's cheaper on the back end, he said, noting that faster recovery times prevented financial losses from hits to tourism and other local economic engines. AshBritt's chief draw in New Jersey and elsewhere was its contracting model. Rather than doing the work itself, the company brought on subcontractors and took a fee from the awards delegated to them. So he didn't even do anything. He's subcontracting the business out, it would appear. That allowed for a high degree of cooperation, for a high degree of coordination, but it swelled costs. It also allowed AshBritt to engage in a practice that critics would later describe as double dipping. Liberal Perkins, who wants to be a member of Congress from Florida, was a partial owner of some of the contractors to which it delegated the work, meaning in some cases he was making money from both the fee that AshBritt took off the top and the funds allocated to its subcontractors. Perkins acknowledged the practice, but criticized efforts to point it out. What does that mean? It means nothing. It doesn't mean anything. It sounds sexy to you because you're writing a story, he said. He admitted that he had an ownership interest in one of AshBritt's subcontractors on the Sandy job and another after Hurricane Katrina. As it did in New Jersey, AshBritt cultivated high-level political connections as it eyed lucrative contracts after that hurricane struck the Gulf Coast. The company was already under contract with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the agency tasked with the government's immediate response. But given the scale of the disaster, the financial potential for AshBritt was far higher. Its existing contract with the Corps was capped at about $200 million, Perkins explained. When Katrina hit, the government put out an emergency procurement notice offering in excess of $3 billion in additional to contracting funds. A week after Katrina made landfill, AshBritt, Johnny on the spot, which already employed the lobbying firm founded by Mississippi Governor Haley Barbour, brought on another lobbyist, Mike Parker, who until just a few years prior was the Bush administration official in charge of the Army Corps of Engineers. Boy, this guy knows how to pat it. He knows whose hand to grease, doesn't he? That is the palm to grease. AshBritt employed Parker's son at the time, Perkins noted. The Corps eventually approved an emergency supplemental contract for AshBritt worth about $800 million. To the extent that AshBritt's disaster recovery work produced controversy, Perkins chalks it up to naked politics. Oh, I thought he's a naked politician. In New Jersey, an overzealous state senator who thought she had a chance of beating, with all due respect to her, I get the political game, believe me, I understand it, thought she had a chance of maybe unseating Governor Christie and initiated state investigations into the company as a political cudgel, he said. The reason she called hearings on AshBritt's contracts was political, but she absolutely had an absolute right to do it for the record. Perkins sees similarly impure motives in news coverage of those controversies. Quote, can you second-guess things after the fact because it sells newspapers? Absolutely, he said. We've been on the receiving end of that numerous times. This is the man who just bought himself the Democrat nomination in a congressional seat in Florida, running against Brian Mast, our war hero friend. Now, here's the commercial. Let me pull this together, Mr. Producer. The National Republican Congressional Committee. This would be cut 15. Here's the commercial that the NRCC is running against this left-wing bottom feeder leech, Randy Perkins. Go.
Rip off Randy Perkins, a Democrat in the news for all the wrong reasons. Ripping off taxpayers, making billions on the backs of the bruised, even grossly overcharging our schools. In fact, Rip off Randy is so corrupt, even Democrat party bosses are questioning his character. Rip off Randy Perkins, sleazy even by Washington standards, too corrupt to represent us. The National Republican Congressional Committee is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Now, he doesn't want to take on Brian Mast directly. He doesn't want to take on Brian Mast's experience in the military, his combat record, his family, his support for American principles. No. Instead, he's already trying to smear Mast by attacking Alan West, the former Republican who held that seat, and me. Randy Perkins wants to run against Alan West and me, and we're not even running. Because that's what sleazeballs do. Here's his ad all over TV in Florida. Cut 14, go.
I'm Randy Perkins, and I approve this message.
How extreme is Brian Mast? Mast has been called the political heir of Tea Party extremist Alan West.
Take your message of equality. Get the hell out of the United States of America.
And Mast called an extremist, frightening radio host his personal mentor.
Well, I don't know why your husband doesn't put a gun to his temple. Get the hell out of here.
You've been a mentor to me without even knowing it.
These are the people Brian Mast looks up to. Brian Mast, not now, not ever.
So there you have it. Right in the gutter. He won't run against Brian Mast. Won't run against Brian Mast's record. And I want Mr. Perkins to come on here, Mr. Tough Guy, so I can confront him. So we can have a discussion about his business practices and my program, which he's obviously obsessed with. So, pal, let's show everybody how tough you are and how brilliant you are and why you should be a member of Congress. From Florida, of course. Come on the program, you coward. And let's have a little discussion, shall we? I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.